Yeah, they always tell you that if you can make it through the first couple of years, then you've made it. But that's not always necessarily the case. There's been all the ups and downs, all the challenges. And to now be in a position where I have my whole family as part of this, it's amazing. Welcome to the 100th episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast, where we want to educate and empower women to live your retirement on your terms. I'm your host, Eric Blake, practicing retirement planner for over 25 years, founder of Blake Wealth Management, and I would not be the man I am today without the women in my life. Two of those women are actually joining us on this very special episode, and we also have another very special guest, not a woman, and I'll be introducing these special folks very, very soon. Joining me again, as she has done for all 100 episodes in one way or another, is Wendy McConnell, who today is going to help guide this conversation and keep us on track. Wendy, how are you?
I'm good. You're right. I've been here for everyone, whether I'm behind the scenes or in front of the camera.
You're very right. So a little over 2.5 years ago, did you think I would make it or we would make it to 100 episodes together? That's way too long of a delay.
No, it's just that, so many people don't last, but I had a lot of hope once you increased your podcast schedule to once a week. I was like, oh, he's serious. He means business. He's going to do this.
Yeah, that happened just over about a year ago. We went to the weekly schedule and it's been nonstop since then. So I greatly appreciate everything you've done. I'm glad that you're part of this journey. And before we go any further, I just wanted to introduce everyone who's joining us today. First, my wife, Dawn, who's been part of the business for the last 5+ years. And we are actually going to be celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary just under 2 months from the time this episode goes live. We also have my daughter, Kaitlyn, who recently joined the firm in August of last year. Just so happens to be the mother of the most amazing 2-year-old in the world as well, our granddaughter, Sloan. And my son, Eric, who is not technically a junior because he's actually named after my grandfather, who I've referenced a number of times in the past on the podcast. The man I call daddy, his name was Lowell, so he has a different middle name than I do. He is Eric Lowell Blake. He joined our firm in December. So this is truly a family conversation. So welcome to the show, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Well, actually, as I said earlier, Wendy's going to help me facilitate this conversation for us today, asking the questions, keeping things moving, and I will chime in from time to time as well. So Wendy, I'll let you take it from here. All
right, here we go. Now let's, this is a party, guys. Let's get a little party atmosphere with a little enthusiasm in our voice. And, we're going to make this fun. Okay. We all ready?
Everybody get hyped up here.
I need the same energy that my 2-year-old has the minute she wakes up.
Right.
So
I can't keep up with that. That's the only problem.
You're telling me. I get it.
Full disclosure, I feel like the Brady Bunch right now. I should be looking down at Wendy and saying, there's a story.
Yeah. Well, and as I said, there's only certain people of a certain age know that story now. So I don't know if your kids do. I mentioned it once to Eric and he said he didn't watch the show.
I was around when it was on. I just wasn't a big fan. So
he was outside for the baseball or basketball, football.
Okay.
Yeah. Not interested in TV.
Yeah. How can you not watch that? Okay, anyway, we've gotten off course. I'm going to start with, and I'm going to refer to him as Eric L.
Yeah, that works.
Eric L. and Kaitlyn, did you ever think that your dad would host a podcast, much less reach 100 episodes?
I mean, whenever he sticks to something and he's got a plan, he's the man with the plan. So, I mean, did I think we would make it to, I say we, now that we are both a part of the business and it's really a family thing now, did I think we were going to make it? Maybe not so much, but now, I mean, my dad is a very knowledgeable man and he knows his stuff. And when he talks about what he knows about, and I mean, I 100%, believed after so many episodes that, this was going to be a successful thing. And I'm so glad it has, because I feel like it's brought in a lot of, women and couples and people who are looking for somebody to help them, financially, especially, trying to retire, post-retirement, during retirement and everything. So yeah, I'm really proud of him for everything that he's done and how far along that they've come.
Well, Eric L., did you think that, with his personality, he would be able to keep up with this?
Yeah. I mean, my dad isn't too big of a talker all the time. So it was a bit of a surprise when he told me that he was going to start a podcast, but I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, me and him have had plenty of conversations over the years about finance, and I know that he's super passionate about it. So, like I said, it makes a lot of sense that he'd want to help as many people as he can doing a podcast. And I'm so happy that it's been as successful as it has been so far.
All right. So, Dawn, what did you think? Did you think that he had it in him to not only do this, not only do it every week, but reach 100 episodes?
1000%. I will tell you, it's not here anymore. It's funny because my eyes keep looking at it. He had this whiteboard hanging in our home office, and throughout the year, this list grew with topics and ideas he thought about while he was on his walks, after meetings with clients, or after any financial literacy programs that he offered our community. And I would giggle when we would host those community events, when he would start out by saying, which I know he said to you a ton of times, I'm going to totally nerd out when it comes to Social Security, or I'm such a huge fan of, and you can hear that tone in his voice, that he is truly passionate about what he knows. And I remember one time at one of our education talks, there was this woman who like gently got his attention, put her hand on his wrist, and Eric turned around and she says, I was totally unaware that that was even possible, and I can't thank you enough for what you shared. So it was moments that like that became more frequent, and it just made sense.
Kaitlyn, let's talk about how you navigate dad versus boss. Now, you are working remotely, but has there been any issues with when he's acting more like dad than boss, or vice versa?
I think it's honestly pawpaw time versus boss time, because and now that I have, access to his calendar, I'm like, well, we can't call pawpaw right now because he's in the middle of whatever he's doing. So we're going to have to wait till later. But, no, I mean, my dad and I have always had we've always had a upfront and, relationship. And so, I know I can call him and talk through things, and he and I have a similar mindset in terms of how to get things done. And so I don't think it's been tough at all really to navigate dad versus boss, because, it's just, we've in very similar ways that we think it's been easy to connect and understand. And, especially I came on pretty soon into the first surge go around for me. And it was just, managing my time and managing, communication and everything. And I think, the dad versus the boss, like I said, it's more pawpaw versus boss, because whenever she wants to call pawpaw, I'm like, well, we can't do that right now. But no, I mean, in terms of, dad versus boss, it's been a pretty good transition.
Here's the funniest story of the whole thing is we went through this back and forth of, is it okay to say I love you at the end of our team meetings?
Yeah. I said, well, I guess I can't get sent to HR for telling my boss and my coworkers that I love them.
Well, you could, but that wouldn't do well for the family part of it.
Yeah. So,
and just to pull back the curtain a little bit on when Kaitlyn talks about surge meetings, so we meet with our clients twice a year. Everybody gets the opportunity to meet with us at least twice a year, and it usually happens in the spring and then in the fall. And so she came on right before our fall meeting block, and that's just nonstop. It's getting ready, preparing for meetings. It's getting everything ready and prepared, and for those conversations, because actually they're extremely important, especially at that time of year. And so she got thrown into the fire pretty quickly on the when she came on board.
I say I give myself a pat on the back though for being able to take on all that. But hey,
she's been amazing. She took to the role and just dove in and head on, and just has been amazing. So I can't be any prouder of her.
So, Kaitlyn, do you see? Do you have a newfound respect for your dad? Do you see why this work matters so much to him and to all of you now?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially being a woman and being a mother and being a wife. Before coming on to the practice, I mean, I didn't know anything really about finances, because, again, like the women that we do help, and then those couples, my husband takes care a lot of the finances and knows. And I mean, I tell him, he'll ask me if we should buy something, and I'm like, yeah, probably not. But, in terms of, the financial part, I really didn't know, because I just, it was never something that I not want to say took interest in, but like being here now and being a part of this, I realize how much women being a part of their financials, being educated on their financial, like what they have financially going for them is so important, because you never know what's going to happen. Again, divorce, a death of a spouse or anything like that, it's so important now to have that education. And I'm so, again, proud of my dad for having this podcast and being able to teach women and teach couples and teach, really anybody who is willing to listen, how important it is to be aware of what your financial situation is.
So, Eric L., has stepping into the business changed how you see your dad?
Honestly, I wouldn't really say so. Really, I've always been interested in finance since I was a teenager. And it's always something that me and my dad have both had a lot of interest in and something we spoke about a lot over the years. So I knew how knowledgeable and passionate he was about everything that he does. And both of my parents are pretty type A. So I kind of knew how things were going to be ran behind the scenes going into this. So that wasn't much of a surprise either, but
That was a nice way of saying I'm a control freak. That's what he's saying.
Hey, it trickled down into this one right here, because I'm very much of a type A mama too.
I got high expectations, so
Got that one from this one, my mother down here. That's for sure.
But definitely over the past couple of years, I've learned a lot about how much what my dad does means to him on an emotional level, for sure. I mean, anybody who's gone to any of our Women's Day events or client events knows firsthand that my dad cares about this a lot. What he does at his mission means a lot to him. So that's been really interesting to see.
So, has this been something that's been planned all along since you got interested in? You're like, oh, someday I'm going to take over the business.
No, not so much that, but I mean, it'd be easy to say that my dad is a really big reason why I decided to go into finance. I mean, I decided to be a financial advisor, I think maybe when I was 15 or 16 or so. And seeing my dad do it over the years, that was, like I said, that was one of the main reasons.
Yeah, it's kind of scary how our paths have are gone very much parallel from the days of, even from when we both started. I think we both actually said we're going to do computer science when we started college.
Yeah.
Eventually both switched to accounting, got accounting degrees, did a little bit of accounting work, realized that wasn't what we wanted to do, and now we're both in the financial planning world. So it's kind of crazy how it's gone.
So, Eric L., what's the one thing that you've learned just by watching him over the years?
There's definitely a lot, absolutely. But I'd probably have to say the most important thing was discipline. I'd say without fail, since I don't even know, as long as I can remember, I'm sure Kaitlyn can attest to this too. I've seen my dad get up at 5:30 in the morning every single morning to go work out. And I mean, there were times whenever I was a kid that he would come into my room whenever he woke up and try to get me to go with him. And most of the time I would say no. But I mean, just knowing that he was out there doing that, trying to better himself, that definitely had a huge impact on me. I mean, I think having that constant example of consistent hard work is a big factor in everything that I've achieved so far in my life.
All right, good to know. So, Dawn, what happens after a tough client conversation?
I tell someone, anybody that passes down where we live down here, I tell someone that we actually just live a couple hundred yards from our office. And the next question always is, well, what do you do? And I immediately think about our clients and the challenging personal situations that they've been faced. Again, like Kaitlyn said, whether they're passing the spouse, divorce, laid off, sick parents, personal health related issues. Life doesn't always follow a predictable path. And when they pick up the phone to share the news of something, we may be that first person that they've called because they don't know what to do next. And our network of incredible resources we have, we've also developed next step guidelines for our clients, actually based off of their experiences. I kind of feel like we become like, quote, a full cycle support. I don't really know. I mean, I think that's the only kind of thing I think about it, because I think of like from beginning to end, there's that accountability for them. And I'm always continued to be inspired by the way we're able to provide support to our clients in any situation.
Do you do therapy services?
Honestly, I mean, from time to time, that's what our meetings turn into.
A lot of times, I tell the clients, listen, you call me. I know Eric's probably shared about, I have a big heart. I've always, I mean, with my children first and foremost, with the quote other children I'd like to say I raised in 25 years of teaching, that it just takes a moment, that it's not a reaction always. It's just being able to listen to that person and their situation. And it's funny how they may tell me that they need money, but the next thing you know, they're telling me why they need it. And I always tell them, look, you tell me whatever you want to share with me. Because that may be something that we may be able to provide in our practice, additional support. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you guys could do that. And so, I always tell them that. I said, you call me anytime you want to. And it's wild. I mean, I have clients that just, hey, what's going on? Hey, how was your weekend? How was, time with the grandbaby or whatever. And that always evolves into conversations about how they're doing. And how else are we going to know what our clients' lives are like if we don't take the time to listen? And that's where I think, my gift is that ability to be able to listen and then to be able to make the best decisions for our clients, having spoke to Eric and our team. So
The definition of tough conversation changes, right? There's different versions of it. So sometimes it's, hey, I've got to tell a client something they don't probably want to hear. And as I talk to our clients about it, I say, you don't pay me to tell me what you want to hear. You pay me to tell me what you need. I tell you what you need to hear. But there's also those difficult conversations where they're initiating it, where, hey, my husband has passed away, or I'm dealing with this health issue. And so I think that's really where Dawn has been such a valuable resource for me. I'm not always as touchy-feely as I might like to be, but that's where she fills in some of those gaps. And so the conversations she's had with clients is just, they share a lot of details with her. And actually we have conversations about what things I need to know to be prepared for a conversation. But, that's really where I think I consider us to be just a different advisor, is because our clients are willing to share those personal details. Because ultimately there's always, you don't ever want to bring it back to a financial component, but there's a financial component. And helping guide them when those things happen, when difficult things happen, when, again, somebody passes away, knowing that we are often that very first call that's going to be made, because they know we have resources, we have connections of people that can help them get through that, whether it's a financial related issue or not. And that's where, again, I think Dawn has been able to really step in and provide that other voice that they have trust and confidence in.
Well, and one of the things too that I can also give Eric massive kudos to is when you talk to an attorney, you talk to a doctor, or you talk to a financial advisor, half the time you don't even understand the language of what they're saying. And I have always, not only have I heard people say, you make it so easy to talk, but you just make it make sense. And that's what I've always enjoyed or appreciated about what we do, is that we're able to share. And if they don't say if they tell us that they don't understand, Eric finds an example. Eric shares it. If they still say they understand, then, it's constantly trying to, put ourselves in a situation where we can make that person feel, again, the whole idea too, especially when Kaitlyn was even mentioning too about, the large percentage of a lot of women are not handling finances, at one point maybe in our, within the family fabric, or even today, is that conversation of feeling confident about, if they're about to go into a room and have to make a decision about something with someone else, or whether it's showing up to the bank to be able to ask appropriate questions for some reason. That's what, is that knowledge of walking into something and feeling confident about what you're about to say. And I think that is critical to a lot of our clients in situations, being whether it's divorced, single, or widowed.
So, Dawn, you more than anyone can tell us why this mission matters so much to Eric personally. And I have a feeling it has something to do with his mom and his grandmom.
I can combine actually both. I mean, I've seen firsthand those financial challenges can impact our clients' lives. We just mentioned, stress, uncertainty, their dreams. And I think for Eric, his biggest goal for our clients is, again, the confidence about their finances so they can focus on really what matters, their family, their security, their health. Eric's grandma. So to kind of get into the story of how his business was shaped, I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna kind of bring it back to me before I put it back on to him. Eric's grandma, Mima, which he's probably mentioned before, has been a big source of actually my inspiration to me as a wife when I joined their family in 1996. Of course, even 6 years before that, when we were dating, we would take trips to her lake house. Eric spent a lot of time with his grandparents. And when we first started dating, I remember how he used to share how much he loved watching his grandparents after years of marriage, still holding hands, and wanted us to be that way from years from now. And his grandparents owned a trucking business for years in Amarillo. And she worked in the office, and his grandfather was on the road and helping other employees. And we were at their house one time during Thanksgiving. And before I came on board with Wealth Management, I asked her, so how did you guys make this work without taking a hard day at the office home with you? And she said, you do take that home. And I think that's the greatest challenge to any relationship is talking about your day, and she was right. We face moments of high pressure. We obviously have very differing opinions. I mean, I know we're type A, but again, I've always kind of thought of us when people ask us how would you define our relationship? I think we make the best team. I can be, I was a coach for many years, and actually he was my assistant coach. I would see things out on the court, and then he would come back and he would say something else. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's something I didn't think about. And it's the exact same way in our business. We have differing opinions. What I do, what he does, we still continue. I think the major piece of advice that any parent or any person working in a business together like this, especially family, is the willingness to listen, to stop for a minute and listen to what the person is saying to each other, and knowing what those strengths and differences lie in our personalities. I think those are huge.
So have either one of you ever pulled the I'm the boss card, like with you when you were coaching and he was assistant, and now in this business he's like, that's my name on it?
No.
I would love to see that.
No way.
But I think one of the things that she's helped me so much with, when you speak finance, actually one of the things I try to pride myself on is communicating difficult financial concepts in easy to understand terms, but I'm not perfect at it. And so there are a number of situations where I'll come to her and say, hey, I need to figure out how do I say this differently to get the point across. And so, having been a teacher for 25 years and dealing with all those kids, I have no idea how she did it. And all those skills, all those long nights of grading papers, everything she built up during her first career, now being part of this, it brings a huge amount of value, not only to our clients, but also to me. Because again, I can't say I'm very good at thinking like a woman. As many of our clients are women, because that's our focus, but I have to ask her advice. I have to be willing to ask for, hey, I need to be able to say this better, do this better. So who better to ask than a woman?
Well, and I won't hesitate to even call the kids, they're employees, but I'll call them and say, hey, your dad's dealing with this situation. They have, I love that saying that our children have watched us grow up as much as we've watched them grow up. And so I think that is so valuable. And, again, I've always said this, and I feel this wholeheartedly that, my children aren't behind me, what they were when they were small children following me. They are beside me or ahead of me. And I have a decision now to make, to look at them and ask for questions, I want answers, to be able to see them as an adult side by side and in front of me when that time comes. So they have provided me invaluable support, emotionally, as well as, just the amount of wisdom that they carry from watching us grow up as well. So it's been huge.
Hi, everyone. It's Eric. Hope you're enjoying today's episode. I want to take just a quick moment to share a resource I think you'll find really valuable. If you've ever asked yourself, how much is my Social Security reduced if I file early? Or am I eligible for benefits as a spouse, surviving spouse, or even after divorce? You're not alone. That's why we created our ultimate guide to women's Social Security success. It includes 6 of our most popular Social Security guides and checklists for women. Inside, you'll find a 2026 quick reference guide with key Social Security amounts and limits to be aware of, along with 5 additional guides and checklists to help you make more informed decisions about eligibility and filing strategies. You can download it for free at womenssocialsecurityguide.com. Keep it handy wherever you may be in the decision-making process. Now, back to the episode.
So, Kaitlyn, what values matter most in this family business?
I mean, my dad kind of hit it on the head with the communication, but I would say legacy and respect. I mean, now that we have truly become a family business, family business for sure, now that all 4 of us are here, we want to continue to provide these services and that support and, for years to come. I mean, I would love to at some point also become, a financial advisor who's going to be able to be client facing and, do the same thing that my dad does now with our clients and, future clients to come, and again, with the communication, I mean, not only is it important within the 4 of us, but also with our clients as well. I mean, they should know just as much as we know when it comes to certain situations, and we want to be able to communicate that as well as the best as we can. And even my dad saying he's coming to my mom for advice on how to possibly get something across to somebody that he may just not be hitting the nail on the head with just yet, but it's and having that respect and that communication goes a really long way, especially with women and nowadays and the times that we're in, that it seems in certain aspects becoming less and less, but we want to be that group for them to be able to call us and be like, hey, I don't know what's going on, I'm not really sure what to do. And having that communication with them and, having the respect for their situation and them as people to just really sit there and say, hey, I understand what you're saying. I hear you. Let's figure this out. So yeah, I would say legacy, respect, and communication are probably the biggest values that we have. And I've, again, only being here since August, I definitely see that, coming from all of us, and especially, just helping them understand and helping, it helps me understand and respect, really what my mom and dad have built over these 5+ years, and just, it teaches me something every single day, just being able to speak with the clients and, and understanding kind of how my dad's brain works when it comes to to this business, now that we're all a part of it.
That's not always easy.
I get it. So just legacy, respect, and communication, I would probably say, are the 3 biggest values that we have here.
Okay, so Eric L., did you ever think that this could be a multi-generational firm?
Not at all. No, this is a big surprise. Yeah, I mean, like I said, whenever I was younger, I always had dreams about being a financial advisor, and me and my dad had conversations years back about me potentially working for him, and it didn't quite work out at the time. But for all of us to be working together now, I can't believe that it's worked out this way. And it's been so...
I hope you like each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I went from selling insurances and houses and now being in a financial planning and retirement business for women and couples and everything. I was like, I never thought that would even be in my path.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been so great to get to spend more time with everybody. I get to experience my family in so many more different ways, learn more about them. It's been great.
So, Kaitlyn, if Sloan listens to this particular podcast someday, what do you hope she hears about your family?
I mean, one, that we actually we do work pretty well together. I want her to know that as a girl, soon to turn woman. And, she's, that not only is it important for her to understand how important, you know, having a family that's there to support you and having a family that will always be there to listen to what you have to say. I mean, she talks more for a two-year-old than I've ever heard a 2-year-old talk. But I'm always there to listen, because, I know that is a big part of, I know I keep saying, for being a woman, but it's tough out here being a woman in this day and age. And, I want her to know that, putting her foot down and, respecting herself and respecting others, and, having, she's going to be an only child, and I want her to be able to have, understand that, yes, you can have respect for yourself, and yes, you can have respect for other people, but, you also need to know whenever, you to put your foot down. And I want her to know that, it's one of those things where not even just financial literacy, but there's literacy about the world, period, is so important. And, I want to teach her every day from now until she says, okay, mom, that's enough. For her to be able to be in this world and be a respectable person, and, again, respect others, and, having that proper communication, and, being able to go through life, hopefully, in a way much better than I did. Of course, you always want to say you wish you could go back and do things differently, but I am the person that I am today because of the things that I went through and because of my parents. And, I want her to have that respect for me as her mother, and that, I want her to be a strong, independent woman. And, if she does want to be single for the rest of her life, so be it. Happy for her to have that. Or if she does end up finding somebody that she really loves and does marry and, has kids of her own, I want her to know that having that support and being able to be like, she will always have me, and she'll always have my mother, and she'll always have my dad, and she'll always have her yay, which is what she calls my brother right now. But I want her to know, like, being strong, being independent, and being able to move through life with confidence is the biggest thing I want her to know.
Girl after my own heart, Kaitlyn. That sounds amazing. I love it.
That's all I want for her. I want her to be a strong, independent woman. I want that for her.
All
for
right.
Sure.
So, to both of the Erics, what do you hope Blake Wealth Management looks like in, say, 10 to 20 years from now?
I mean, it would be easy to say better, of course, but I think if I had to choose a better word, I'd probably say personalized. I think a lot of what me and my sister coming on board has allowed my dad to do is to spend more time on the things that make this service better for our clients. And I think that's the most important thing. I want this personally to be everything our clients could ever dream of. I want this to be the best possible company that we can be. And I think that a lot of growth comes from that, just providing the best possible service for people.
I'm going to take this from a couple of different angles. And I think, having been a financial advisor for over 25 years, I'm still staying away. I'm going with over 25 years instead of the exact number at this point. But I think in our world, there's a lot of conversation about what's changing. There's talks about AI. Is AI going to take over the financial advisor's job? Just like, there used to be the robo advisors from a few years back. That nobody's going to need financial advisors. And I think one of the things I would say is, if we look at where we're at today and the things we focus on, AI will never be able to replace that. And in terms of who we work with, the work that we do, the connection we make, everybody's talked about communication and caring. And that's the thing that we want to get better and better at over the next 10, 20 years, is the communication and what we do for our clients. How can we increase that level of service to a point where nobody would ever consider going somewhere else, because there's nothing better than what we can offer. Beyond that, as far as just the family, I never really thought about, Eric mentioned it earlier about not really ever thinking this was going to be a multi-generational firm. And many years ago, that probably wasn't really even possible. This business is hard, quite honestly. They always tell you that if you can make it through the first couple of years, then you've made it. But that's not always necessarily the case. There's been all the ups and downs, all the challenges. And to now be in a position where I have my whole family as part of this, it's amazing. And I don't know that I could have ever envisioned that. And what we have today, being able to talk to them every single day and giving them ultimately the opportunity to do whatever they want to do, to give them the opportunity to say, we are now going to run this business. Dad, step back, we're taking over. I don't know when that'll happen, but at some point, I hope that that's what does happen. And it's, again, whether they both want to be financial advisors, whatever that looks like, to give them the opportunity to do that. It's family is everything to me. We have, as you hopefully can tell, our audience hopefully can tell from this episode, we've been a very close-knit family. We've had our challenges just like everybody else has, but there was a reason I wanted them to be part of it. And it's not just because they're my family either. They are all very well equipped to handle the role that they're in. It wasn't just, hey, I want to have my family for the sake of having my family. They are all very good at what they do. The role that I've asked them to accept and that they're in there currently, they're very good at it. And they're going to do nothing but get better. They're going to add more skills, more knowledge so that they can expand themselves. And that's what I want to give them, is unlimited opportunity to do the things they want to do, whatever that looks like. And over the next 10 to 20 years, we'll see how it plays out. And that's ultimately all I could ask for, is just give them the opportunity. I've experienced challenges. I've had the ups and downs, and I've got this far to 25 plus years. And I want to give them that same opportunity to have whatever that next 25 plus years looks like for them, that they have those choices, and then they can take the ball and run with it whenever that time comes. However long I have, however long we have, but they're in a position where they can have everything that they would ever want. And it goes back to the old Zig Ziglar quote, is you can have everything you want in life if you can help enough other people get what they want. And it's the same thing. I want to give them the things that they want. And one of the things I've always really dreamed of and wanted is to have them be part of this. And we have it now. Now it's just, where does it go from here? What the future is going to unfold, however it's going to unfold. But that's really what I wanted to share, is that who knows what the future holds? Who knows what the next 10 to 20 years looks like? But I think it's going to be amazing.
We'll have a pact. We'll all meet back here in 10 years. How's that?
Sounds good. That'd be awesome.
God, I would have a 12-year-old. That's crazy.
All right, let's not jump too far ahead.
Awesome. So before we wrap up this 100th episode, is there anything else anybody wanted to add? Anything that they didn't get a chance to share?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely want to thank my family for being part of this conversation. Dawn, Kaitlyn, and Eric, just being part of this journey with me. I really want to thank Dawn. Everything you do in our business, in our lives together, in our family, and for me, you have truly been through the good, the bad, and the ugly. I can never say enough about what you've done for me. You've seen me at the best of times. You've definitely seen me at the lower of time, the worst of times. And it just, what you bring is it's everything. I always say that I would not be the man I am today without the women in my life, but you're at the top of the list without question. So I just want to thank you for everything you've done.
You old softy.
I mean, she's
Love
shaped
you.
how I've been, I've wanted to, like I said, Sloan is going to be my one and only beautiful child, but my mother has shaped the way that I'm a mother today. And she's taught me a lot. And I've never met somebody who's more hardworking and dedicated, not only to, whatever it is that she's doing or whatever it is she's got going on, but most importantly to her children and her family.
All right, Eric, it's your turn. Now that I guess we're going down
Everybody,
the let's all thank mom
praise.
route. Now it's your turn to thank.
I mean, she did give birth to both of us, so.
Yeah, wouldn't be here without her. But no,
Yeah.
I mean, best mom ever. I'm so much of who I am today I owe to my mom.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys again for joining me. Thank you, Wendy, as always, for being here as part of this journey. Thank you to everyone that's listening. Whether this is your first episode or you've been with us for all 100, I truly appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. And again, Wendy, you're such a big part of this as well. That is it for this 100th episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and share. And until next time, please remember, retirement is not the end of the road. It's the start of a new journey.
That's it for today's episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast. We hope you found our insights and advice helpful in planning for a fulfilling retirement. Don't forget to take action on what you've learned today. Visit our website at blakewealthmanagement.com to learn more about our firm and review our Simply Retirement Roadmap process to get you on the right path to the retirement you deserve. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we look forward to helping you achieve your retirement goals. Remember, retirement is not the end of the road. It is the start of a new journey. So embrace it and make the most of it. Until next time, take care. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security, or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Blake Wealth Management. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Blake Wealth Management or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor, Blake Wealth Management, and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.